Time. So first of all, thank you so much for joining us today. This particular session is planned on answer writing, handling mains, how do you approach preparation for general studies papers, and how do you go for attempting your UPSC mains paper. So we will be touching all of these aspects one by one together, and I would want to keep this session more interactive, because a one-way kind of a session you would be seeing of a lot of toppers on YouTube. But the fact that we are here all today, so you can directly ask your questions to us. And in case we are telling something and you feel like that there's something that you want to add on that particular, ask on that particular topic, so you can just put your hands up, right? So we'll keep it interactive, we'll keep it two-way, right? So the first question for you is, how many of you are writing mains this year? Okay. How many of you have written mains? All right. So a major part of the crowd will be writing mains next year or the year after. Okay. So we'll keep it that way. And I would like to first begin by telling you the importance of this mic is thoda side. Is it fine from here? Can you hear me? A bit near. Okay. Yes. So we'll begin by why answer writing is important. So general studies. How many papers do we have for general studies? 4 papers. What else do we have in written? We have optionals, we have compulsory language, and we have essay. So I will start by giving you my own example. My total score for UPSC was 1068, right? And my GS score, as sir was telling you, was 470. That makes around 45% of my score coming only from GS. Why I'm telling you is that the major part of why I got the rank that I got was my score in general studies. Because if you look at my scores in optionals and essay and interview, they're pretty on the average side, right? So on average of the other toppers. But what made me reach that rank was my general studies score. So this speaks volumes about how much you can gain out of preparing for those 4GS papers, how well you can practice it in advance, and what kind of returns you can get in your overall score from the general studies papers, right? So we will first start with how do you prepare. This is giving echo. We will start by how do we prepare. So there is a common question from students: how do you make notes? Yes, this is a very common question which all of us have when we start preparing. And notes, when you say I'll talk about 3 different parts of it. The first is, how do you make notes of the current affairs? Yes, this sounds tricky to us. So what I used to do was, I used to read a particular newspaper. I used to read Hindu, then I started reading Indian Express and the latest stages of my preparation. You can choose either of them. You can read the newspaper and try to specifically focus on the editorial section. And for that, I used to make my own notes. So when I say own notes, what I mean is, I used to note down some important statements, some good facts, some statistics, some quotation, or some international report which is quoted there. When you do that for an editorial, what happens is, you are creating your own data bank. You are creating your own line of thought in that particular topic. And I had categorized them according to the different topics of the general studies. So I had made history, geography. Generally, in current affairs, you'll not have much of history, geography. You'll more have polity, economy, Indian society. What else? Science and tech, IR, international relations. So I had categorized the topics, and I used to note down whatever editorial importance which I used to find in that particular head. So that gave me, at the end of 1 year, I had my own set of notes for all important topics that were there for that year. So when you say current affairs, if you're giving the exam for 2023, from January 2022, your current affairs become important. from Jan 22 for the next year exam of 2023. That much is sufficient, because more or less the themes will remain same. Only the facts will change, like the amount of poverty, different facts hote hain. GS2 you have in GS3 different facts, so those will change, but over a year the theory part will more or less remain the same.
So one thing what I would want to say here is, I used to not make much of a notes. I am not a note making person, but I could say that it might have costed me a few marks. So now, after maybe I married Srushti, I could see her notes. So I saw her notes which was lying in there at her house. Like she had made so much of notes. Maybe itna pura like ishtu doddu bundle notes ittu, and they were very crisp to the point, and she had made lots of notes, and maybe that has helped in her general studies score, I would say.
I always tell that the more organized your notes are, the more better your answers will come out to be. Reason being, our brain is like a library. And if you are not categorizing it into different subjects, if you're just, keeping it, I'll just pick up from an overall yearly compilation and I'll be able to manage it, you will be able to manage it. But to ace the exam with good score and get the service of your choice, you will have to put in a bit more of effort, right? So I would advise you to, make out your own this thing from the editorials at least. Rest current affairs you can cover from online websites. The next thing is static GS. Arjun.
One more thing I would like to add in current affairs. So you get lot of value-added material from coaching institutes. Take from some reliable institute which make good current affairs notes. So you, as madam was telling, editorial notes ನೀವೇ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಬೇರೆದಕ್ಕೆ you try to depend upon some institute notes if you are not so much into note making. But if you are doing it very well and good. And coming to static GS, what we both thought was like static GS ali it is note making is very individual. This one choice. So you may choose to make notes for maybe history or geography, or you may not. So it will not affect much in at the end, I would say.
Because what happens is some of your books, so we read M. Lakshmikant for polity, yes? Now this book is in itself in a form of notes. If you end up making notes of that book, you'll do a photocopy. Because already the book is very condensed, very to the point, and sort of vast, which is required for the exam. So for that, you need not go into that. So say for example, you're referring to D.D. Basu for polity. Now D.D. Basu is bit vast, deep. And if you're not a PubAd student, then you don't need that much of it. So you can sort of just pick up some important themes like say center-state relations or DPSP or fundamental rights. You can pick up those themes from that book, and then you can make some bit notes of that. What notes does is keeps in your head and in your copy, it sort of consolidates your information. And it becomes easier for you to revise. So we will talk about revision, but at the outset I'll tell you that no matter how much you read, the only thing which you can revise matters. Because you are reading so much vast things, you have so many subjects to read. So if you end up just making notes and not revising them, there is no use of them, right? So you have to understand this basic, you have to keep in mind the revision factor also in your head. So we'll move on.
Optional?
Yeah.
When it comes to note making of optionals, I would say this should be compulsory. If optional, I would stick to English. You should make notes of optional. So my optional was medical science. So as I told, I was not a note making person. I used to hate making notes right from school. But for optional, I had to make notes because you cannot revise optional in a week. So it is so vast, that too particularly technical subjects like medical science and all, it's so vast that you can't revise in a week. So you have to make your own notes. So what I did was like I made few of my friends make notes for me, and I used to read that. But the point to take away from here is...
Not sure we're getting those friends, everybody of us. So I more was a, work hard, strive hard, that kind of a thing. So he got friends who could make notes for him. I'm not sure if you all would get that.
Yeah, but optional you should definitely make your own notes. Your own notes will definitely add much value than reading somebody else's notes. The medical science has notes available on internet of one of our senior. So it's really good. But if you read that, you will not you will not be able to grasp it as much as you have prepared on your own. So optional notes making is very much necessary. Even if you don't make any other notes, you make sure that you will make your own optional notes. Okay?
Fine then. So we will now move on to GS papers 1, 2, 3, 4 individually. And we'll discuss some important themes of that paper, and we will discuss the preparation frameworks of it. Yeah. So the first is GS1. What do we have in GS1? History, geography, world history, post-independence history, then Indian society. What else? Art and culture. Correct. So I think that is all that we have in GS1. So all these subjects are pretty vast in their nature. Yes. If you're studying history, you have to just start from the back to the, the post-independence part of it, the entire freedom movement. In geography, if you pick, there are different parts of it, landforms, economic geography, so many parts. So this GS paper is going to be vast. It's going to take more time of yours. So I would suggest keep that in your head. You don't have some quick pointers like in GS3. You can just, keep on finishing topics fast. That's not happening in GS1. So be prepared for that when you start preparation for it. Other thing which I would like to say is, if you look at the paper of the previous year papers of GS1, you will find that there are a lot of repeated themes in the paper. There are a couple of topics, and this I have mentioned specifically in my book as well. There are certain topics and themes which come more or less every year. Now we know that the exam is going to be a bit unpredictable and we don't know what you're facing, but in mains, there is a lot that you can prepare for in advance. Say there is a theme called regionalism. If you look at the papers, you will have one question or the other on regionalism. They will try to connect regionalism with state formation, interstate relation or something like that. So why not prepare a framework in advance of that topic, right? So we know that a question is coming out of it. So why not prepare a good definition? Why not prepare a good example? Why not look into the current affairs of what specifically happened this year about this particular subject? When you do that, you're creating your own framework of that topic. And then in the exam, if you face any question with regionalism, anything, you at least have a framework to start with. And that gives you immense confidence on that day. Correct? So my thing will be, please go on repeating, go on focusing on the themes which are repetitive in nature. And from current affairs, like we were trying to tell them.
When it comes to GS1,